So I was born in California. I was born in Santa Monica, so just outside of Los Angeles, which I think is romanticized a lot as kind of this perfect beach town. We have all the perfect weather, and it does rain there. We do learn about the seasons. My freshman year of college. So I'll tell you this for a second. So I grew up there and kind of had this idea of where everyone I knew, you apply to a lot of schools and you figure, go away for college, that's your adventure, which Meg kind of talked about. And after college, if you love it, you can stay, and if you hate it, you go home. And no one's ever gonna doubt why you go back to California. Like, that's a pretty easy, it's California answer. And for me, I really wanted to go to a Big Ten school because it's Big Ten sports, and I grew up kind of being a huge football fan and saying, like, I want to go to tailgates, and I want to have a team that I can get really excited about, and I want a team, you can cheer behind and all these things. So obviously, when I picked IU, I didn't look at their football schedule at all. But they had basketball, and that was good too. So I looked throughout the Midwest. I did a stay-to-day with my dad in a car. It was amazing we didn't kill each other on that trip, but kind of took a walk at IU, and if you've been, I was on the wooden bridges that cross outside of Ballantyne Hall when in the middle of my tour, was like, this is where I'm going. I kind of lied to myself about that for a period of time, and had the dramatic, going to the mailbox moment where I was like, am I gonna go to Wisconsin or am I gonna go to IU? To which my best friend pointed out, Denver, you've compared every school to IU this entire time. Like, you're just kidding yourself. So I went to IU, and I was in Den Meadow my freshman year when I decided I actually felt like a college student. I got involved with all sorts of things, and I just kind of found my niche at IU. But that being said, I had a lot of kind of crazy experiences being from California. So my roommate my freshman year was anti-Semitic, which was, as a Southern California, Los Angeles girl, was like, what do you mean? Like, this is a real thing? Like, this is still an issue? But it was a learning experience, and it was kind of a good way to kind of be thrown into a different world, and that is why I chose IU. I wanted something that was different. So kind of obviously survived that experience. Needless to say, she did not graduate from IU. And so, went through college, and when it came time to my senior year, I had always had this plan I was going to go to law school, and UCLA had been my #1 law school since forever, because that's where my mom went to law school. And I realized talking to a recruiter from UCLA that, oh my God, I never want to practice law. So far from it. So I said, okay, it's, first semester, senior year, what am I going to do? And I quickly added a minor, so I added public management, and I said, I'm just going to figure it out. Going into that summer, I was still working for the university, and I took a road trip, and I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I was considering moving. And that road trip actually totally ended up changing my life, because I came back with a DVT in my leg, so a blood clot, essentially. This is why they tell you to walk around on an airplane when you take a long flight, right? It's not because, you're bored. It's because it keeps you from getting blood clots, essentially. So I came back, and I was like, okay, I now have this serious health issue. I can't get insurance. It sucks. Serious health issue, have a week to move, and I refused to go back to California, because at this point, it was just being stubborn. It was saying, I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to move home to my parents' house. I want to do something different. So I moved to Indianapolis, and it was totally on a whim. At the time, I was dating someone in Bloomington, so I was far enough away that it was my own city and I could do my own thing, but my boyfriend was in Bloomington and my best friend's parents were in Chicago, so I was kind of accessible. And I took 2 jobs and 2 internships to figure out how to stay here and justify the bills, and I started getting involved, and I got involved with Indy Hub, and I also joined a kickball team. And through that kickball team, kind of, if you have 20 and 30-year-olds playing kickball, they're fun. No 20 and 30-year-olds play kickball because they're not fun. So just kind of started meeting people I really cared about, and eventually was working corporate job eventually, and then from there I took a job with a startup company, and that startup taught me everything I know about how not to do business. From how not to treat clients, how not to write contracts, how not to train people, all of these things. And when I left that job, I challenged pretty much everyone I knew and said, sell me on Indy, right? Again, I'm at this crossroad where I can easily go back to California. No one will question me. No one will blame me. I can pick a new city on the map and go someplace entirely new, because that's my personality. Or you can, introduce me to what's awesome here. So I went on a mission to meet cool people doing cool things. That's literally what I kind of sent the email to my network saying. And I spent 2.5, 3 months or so meeting with anyone that wanted to meet, and buying more beer and more coffee than I could possibly imagine. And just really being sold on Indy. And essentially, through Molly's help and through some other people, I positioned myself to be found, which means I basically had 4 people do an intro to one person, and then showed up where he was and was like, hi, I'm Denver. And he's like, I keep hearing about you. And I was like, I have no idea why. It's amazing how that happens, which is what led me to the Speakeasy. So the Speakeasy is kind of a community center for entrepreneurs and startups, and kind of to echo what a lot of people have said, it really kind of gives me a chance to have a huge impact on the city. My main job is really to be a resource for other people. So people don't need permission to do things in Indy, but they need to feel supported in doing them. So for the startup scene, that's basically my job, right? So if they want an introduction, I can help them with that. If they need to practice, a pitch for investors, I can find investors that want them to practice for them, and really just kind of serve as that resource arm. And I think kind of most recently in my chapter of things, I came up, I had some life-changing news a couple months ago, and I had kind of the response from the community was, are you going to stay? Are you going to be in Indy? Are you going to go back to California where your family is, or where my dad is? And it's kind of that instant notion, as you get ingrained and as I've gotten ingrained, I can't imagine being anywhere else. So as I got kind of pummeled with this question of, are you going to stay or are you going to go? To me, it hadn't even occurred to me that I would leave. Because very much as I've kind of given to Indy, it's given back, and this is where my home is, and this is kind of where I at least intend to stay for the time being. So that's my story.